Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to Battelle Darby Creek Metro Park today to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the signing of the Big Darby Creek Accord. We have a great day for our canoe float. We're going to float from Alkire Road south about 2.5 miles to the Route 665 area. I just want to welcome everybody to Battelle Darby Creek. The Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks owns and manages 27,500 acres in central Ohio. Battelle Darby Creek is our largest park in our system and the largest metro park in the state of Ohio, with over 7,000 acres here at Battelle Darby Creek alone. North of here, the Park District also owns an additional 2,200 acres at Prairie Oaks Metro Park, just north of I-70 in Big Darby Creek, with a total about 9,200 acres and over 20 miles of creek corridor along the Big and Little Darby Creek federal and state scenic rivers. About 40 to 50 species of state listed plants and animals occur here. The Park District has also done quite a bit of work in upland preservation with restoring over 1,600 acres of wetlands and native Darby Plains prairies to protect those uplands and all the tributaries that drain into Big Darby Creek. We're also the only place in Franklin County that you can find breeding colonies of the federally endangered Indiana bat, when we'll be actually going through that area, kind of through the heart of the park on our canoe float today. So I'd just like to welcome everybody here, and with that I'd like to introduce Councilmember Michael Stenziano.
Well, thank you and good morning. I am Councilmember Michael Stenziano. I get the honor of being here because I get to chair Public Utilities. But truly an honor on behalf of my colleagues on Columbus City Council and the Mayor's office to be here. Obviously, I am not dressed for canoeing, but excited to see so many of you are. All of us here today are also part of a team to ensure that our children, our children's children, have a vibrant Big Darby watershed to enjoy. The Accord 10 years ago was truly a historic agreement. After working at the State House for a number of years, I know just how difficult it can be to get leaders from different jurisdictions, different parties, to agree on a set of goals and principles. But the Darby Accord proves that when something as important as clean water and long-term sustainability of our environment is at stake, people will find common ground, and today they will do what is best for the region. I do want to recognize someone who is here today with us who was instrumental in pushing for the protection of the Darby a decade ago, and that is now former council member and current Clerk of Courts, Mary Ellen O'Shaughnessy. The clerk, thank you for your advocacy and for all things green in Columbus and Franklin County. I'm going to have Clerk come up and talk a little about her experience. I've only been on council for 183 days, and so her experience 10 years ago is crucial to why we're here today. Mary Ellen.
Thank you, thank you. Can you all hear me okay? Thanks so much for joining us here, and thanks so much for the invitation to join you all. To talk maybe a little bit about what we were doing 10 years ago and more, as we talked about how important the Darby is, and our entire system of rivers, creeks, streams, and ravines are critically important. Really, it is our natural resource, and though we have many different ideas and concepts as to how we should grow and develop, we all came together because this last great place, America's last great place, the Darby Creek, was in danger, and we needed to come together to solve that problem, to make sure that we had sensible development patterns that would make sure that we preserve this. And also, I want to say hats off to the Metro Park system, which really saw the need and went ahead and acquired quite a bit of land since that time. To make sure that we were preserving the Darby. So we're going to have a wonderful time today getting out on this wonderful natural resource that we have here in Central Ohio. And thanks so much for joining me, and thanks so much for celebrating the Darby. Thanks.
Because of Mary Ellen's work, the work of all council members, commissioners, trustees, and stakeholders, truly to be appreciated and celebrated and never forgotten. As our region continues to grow, and I saw some of my friends from Morpsey telling us that we are going to be adding 500,000 residents by 2015, the pressures of the 500,000 plus acres that makes up the Darby watershed will continue to intensify. We need to maintain our commitment to manage growth that protects what makes this community so special. And one of the things at the top of that list must be the Big Darby and its tributaries. So thank you for the opportunity to speak briefly, and now I'd like to turn it over to Tracy Hatmaker, who serves as the Township Administrator for Prairie Township. Tracy.
Good morning. I want to say that something as big and successful as protecting the Big Darby watershed in Franklin County and beyond takes cooperation and partnership. It's come up in a few of the remarks already, but it's something worth dwelling on a little bit. There were back several years ago, before the Big Darby initiative started, the City of Columbus and its 208 Plan External Advisory Group was a partnership of public sector, private sector, and volunteer groups that got together, and out of that somewhat bureaucratic conversation grew a true cooperative efforts of 9 local and county jurisdictions, along with, very importantly, groups like the Darby Creek Association and the Nature Conservancy and the like, as well as state agencies such as the Department of Natural Resources and the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, all working together, often not having the experience of even knowing each other, and working together on a regular basis, but finding common ground and common purpose. And it was very critical. This not only occurred 10 plus years ago, but it also occurs up through today. These relationships continue, and the ongoing efforts to implement the Big Darby Accord recommendations, whether it be natural area conservation, stream restoration, or finding the revenues or the proper development regulations to complement all of those efforts, or whether it be the committee work that is done in regulation or development proposal review. It's sometimes grueling day-to-day work, but it takes the ongoing effort of cooperation. I think it's become, I think a lot of strong and important relationships have been built through the effort that are fantastic byproducts. These relationships have, I know, benefited me, and I'm sure many of my colleagues beyond this great project. So I want to point that out, and I'm grateful to our partners at the various townships, municipalities, City of Columbus, and Franklin County for working with us and for my relationships with them. Having said that, next I want to introduce Anthony Sasson, one of our important partners from the Nature Conservancy.
Thanks. I have not seen a representative from Brown Township here today, but I happen to live in Brown Township. I know that Prairie Township is here and Pleasant Township. Actually, I wanted to introduce Commissioner Paula Brooks, or somebody else should do that.
No, go ahead. You've just done it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Who has been a great supporter of the Big Darby Accord and the Big Darby in general.
You know, 10 years ago, we sat in the county auditorium after many conversations with the City of Columbus, our great suburbs, and all of our great townships. And we decided that we would preserve this Darby area for all of our future generations. We modeled it and worked with the private sector on the Chesapeake Bay conservation. And the economy kind of slowed down, which was a bit of a help in that respect. It gave us time as an Accord body, thank you very much, to work really hard to put the pieces into place to assure that this really does stay in effect for generations to come. It was my pleasure in 2006 to be president of the Board of Commissioners at that time, and I really didn't know if we could pull this off. and get everybody's signature on the dotted line. We did. And I want to thank people like Mayor Coleman, who was there in our county auditorium, Brown and Prairie Township, Hilliard. Cheryl Grossman was the mayor, I believe, at that time, and many, many others. The other suburbs, I believe even Dublin was there. And I just want all of you to know that history, because here we are 10 years later. Many of us are moving to other positions or other chapters of our lives. And it's important to remember this history and to continue that legacy to preserve our water, our clean air. I was so amazed to see our bald eagles recently flying again in this great Darby area. I've brought people from all over the world to see our clean water. This area has been an ambassador in hopefully making a difference in future generations as we try to make our world the best it can be from so many standpoints. So thank you today for being here. Please remember, that's my plea. We're not just standing here today, we're here on a mission. We are on a mission to preserve our clean air, our clean water, and this accord, and grow it all the way up to the headwaters. Let's not forget that as well. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Brooks. And as I was saying, I'm sure the Brown Township trustees would be here if they could, but I think that they've been great supporters for over 30 years, and that sort of defines Brown Township, the Big Darby Creek that flows on its western border. I want to note a couple people who came today that I had sort of asked to be here. The Ohio State representative, the mussel expert. If you see mussels out there today, Clarissa Lawless, formerly of OSU and now a consultant on mussels, is here, representing sort of the Ohio State University. And also Bill Stanley, our assistant state director for the Nature Conservancy, is here. So thanks to them for being here. The Nature Conservancy is an international nonprofit organization that's worked in Ohio since the 50s and Big Darby since sometime in the early 80s. And the Big Darby is called a last great place, which you heard earlier. And I think that's more than a slogan that's been proven here by what we've seen in the last 10 years plus. We've especially worked with Metro Parks, OSU, ODNR, Prairie Township to establish some of the important sites and efforts to protect the creek for conservation. Some of those you can't get to yet through the parks, but they will be. For example, upstream from here at US 40, there's a couple of parcels that Metro Parks owns now that you will have public access to in the near future, we believe. And at one of those sites, we removed the dam back in the 1990s. There's another dam still up here, which is another project for a later day. You heard the headwaters mentioned. We have established a preserve of about 1,000 acres up in Logan County, and it's become a very good example of a restored site thanks to the support from agencies like Ohio EPA and the Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as many dedicated volunteers. We've attended hundreds of meetings about the Big Darby, spent millions of dollars and years in time and acquisition, restoration, and lobbying, including communications to many of you here today. And I hope, or I should say I think, that that time has been very well spent. The fish in the Big Darby are mostly doing pretty well, very well, in fact, according to the last survey, based on Ohio EPA sampling. And the mussels need some help. And there's some attention to that, and hopefully be more in the near future. We also need more science. We need more attention to the stormwater management, what's adequate, wetland buffers, things like that, and a very active land conservation effort still needing to continue, even as it's one of the best local land conservation efforts in the state of Ohio. So there's still much to do, and that needs to be done. There's notable progress here, outstanding example in Ohio, something you can take back to your colleagues, your friends, your family, and point out to them. We're encouraged at the Nature Conservancy by the Accord and the longstanding commitment that has been here. and appreciate all the agencies' efforts and their supporters. So good luck on the continued success for 10 years and beyond. Happy anniversary, and have fun out there.
Could I just mention Matt Brown? Matt, you were with us in 2006. Yep, so you're long in the tooth there for a county employee.